conversation that I had last week on Ricky Smiley. And the reason why I wanted to recap that conversation, it's not that I didn't get out everything that I wanted to say, but I thought about something, and there's this other point that I wanted to bring up that I want to share with you guys, and I wanted to see if you guys agree with me. So when I look back at the Instagram live from the other day, where Ricky Smiley was, I mean, y'all, that whole grown man looked in the camera and he said he was scared.
Yep. Things about to get ugly. Things about to get really ugly. Yep. And I'm scared. Scared.
He said he was scared and he was gravely concerned about the possibility of him being deported. And he encouraged his audience to possibly seek dual citizenship in some other country. He didn't get specific, nor did he say that that was his intention either. He never said that he intended to escape the coming wrath by applying for citizenship somewhere else. He didn't say where he had planned to go. But he did do a lot of fear mongering, and then he encouraged people to listen to Joy Reid as if she is the sage of wisdom on this topic. And after I covered him, I did some more thinking, and I said, you know what? I said, I've been very critical, as you guys know, if you watch my show, on how the Black community has ended up where we are with, almost 80% out of wedlock, single parent home, no nuclear family, our abortion rates super high, just our lack of, we don't have a solid nucleus or family structure anymore. There's so many issues that are plaguing the Black community. And I thought about it as I listened to Ricky Smiley again. And then I looked at the state of Black men in this country. It hit me, y'all, that Jim Crow and the KKK and all of the things that were happening to Black people during that time period, a lot of those things, and this is my opinion, so if you disagree, you're free to disagree. A lot of those things would not have happened or would have been able to take a foothold if we had had less men like Ricky Smiley. That male cowardice that we saw in that video, that whole chestless man archetype is how Jim Crow was able to take a foothold in states that either had 3 times more Black men than white men or 2 times more Black men than white men. What do I mean? South Carolina, post the Civil War, had 3 times more Black men than white men because they all died in the war. Like, it was a Civil War. They died, right? Same for Alabama. Same for Mississippi. After the Civil War, with the work that the Freedmen's Bureau did to help acclimate these newly freed slaves to function in their freedom, we know that there were lots of Black Americans, freed men who took places in politics. They became secretaries of state. They became senators, U.S. senators, not state senators. They were the registrars. If we had less men like Ricky Smiley, there is no way, if we outnumbered white men 2-1, 3-1, how is it that Jim Crow was able to take a foothold in the South? Well, the reason I'm arguing is because we had too many men like Ricky Smiley. We didn't have enough, Booker T. Washingtons, and we didn't have enough Frederick Douglasses. We didn't have men of valor who were willing to take the words of Abraham Lincoln to heart, which is, teach your so-called former masters, you teach them that you are free. If they don't believe you, take up the sword and bayonet. How is it in 2025 a whole grown man gonna sit on the Instagram live and tell thousands of people that he is afraid of the possibility of being deported? Mind you, that is not happening anywhere. Black people are not being rounded up in mass. But you fixed your mouth to incite fear in other image bearers who share your ethnic image. And you stood there and you whined like I don't use profane language, so like a Mitch. That's what you did. And you sat there and you talked about you being afraid. First of all, what are you afraid of? Now, the question is, was he serious or was this a part of the act? Was this a part of the propaganda machine to make other Black people cower in fear and listen to him and be afraid as well? Or is he really this emasculated and this weak and he was speaking from the heart? Now, I don't know which one it is, but I mean, what else are we supposed to think? And I know this is sharp criticism, but if you think about it, if we outnumbered, and hear me clearly, let me give some disclaimers before people think that I am advocating for some sort of widespread violence. That is not it at all. But if after the Civil War, and I'm an emancipated freedman, I am free, not because Abraham Lincoln gave me my freedom, but because God made me free. Why is it that we didn't have more of us functioning in our freedom, using the Second Amendment, outnumbering our oppressors, and say, oh, if you think you're about to subjugate us again, you got another thing coming. It is more of us than it is of you. What make it do what it do? But instead, we allowed ourselves to be intimidated with, when we had more numbers, how did we allow ourselves to be intimidated? You know how we allowed it? Because that same weak-minded, emasculated persona that Ricky Smiley and Roland Martin and Van Jones walk around with, whining and crying all the time, that's how the Black community was made vulnerable. We were left vulnerable by men like that. And look at the generations of subjugation that were allowed to take a foothold when we outnumbered our oppressor. There is no way, and I know I'm saying this many generations removed, having not been alive during that time, there is no way the men in my circle, my friends, my brothers in the Lord, the ones that are alive today that I know would have ever allowed that to happen. Absolutely not. Somebody they would have met their maker that day. But because we've now got several generations of these emasculated men. We couldn't even say it was matriarchal squalor back then, because it didn't exist. We can't say that. Now we can say that's what it is now. We can say 3 generations of bastards raising bastards have cultivated a generation of weak men. But it's something other than that. Where did that come from? And I know some might say, well, the psychological, ramifications and effects of slavery. Okay, I hear that argument. But why is it that Harriet Tubman was a woman who exhibited so much more bravery, and in the face of actual harm and danger, took a risk every time she made a trip back down to the South to go free some more slaves by herself? Granted, yes, she worked. I'm stuck again. She worked with a network of whites and other freedmen on the stops, the strategic places throughout on the way up to Canada. But how is it Harriet serves as a spy for the Union Army? How is it that she made that treacherous trip down to the South to free other slaves? And she was a woman. I'm doing two things. I am absolutely extolling the bravery and the sheer fortitude of Harriet Tubman, but I'm also indicting and asking, where were the men? Where were they in mass? We know the story of Frederick Douglass, who fought his master to get his freedom. We know about Nat Turner. But there aren't this plethora of slave revolts and rebellions recorded in history. They're just not. We have more examples of men turning in other men when one would try to function in their freedom. We have examples of other slaves turning them in to the master, saying, you know Jethro gonna try to run away. Cowardice. Or we have stories of, well, if I try to run away, it might be hard out there. Cowardice. What's the difference between them and Ricky Smiley? It is no difference. A weak, melanated-minded, jellyback soy boy Negro stinks in my nostrils. Have no respect for him. None. And the fact that he got on his platform and told other Black people not to be resilient, to be strong, and to recognize that you're an American. The blood of Union soldiers, Black ones, were spilled on this soil for your freedom. They fought for it, so it is yours. Donald Trump, ICE, Department of Homeland Security, nothing threatens that. But instead, he lied. He lied and he pushed propaganda, talking about they coming for us next, sounding just weak and sad. And he wasn't even embarrassed about his commentary, because if he was embarrassed, he'd pull the video down, and it's still up. It's still up. And then gonna tell you, you know, y'all need to go and watch Joy Reid. You know, listen to her show. Joy Reid don't even have a show. So here's the question that needs to be asked now. Was he paid to say this? That's a question. Was he paid to say that? Or is he really just that stupid and weak and said it on his own recognizance and he didn't need to be coerced to do it? Both are bad, but I have questions. I want to know which one is it? Why is this important? This is important because, like, I'm raising two boys. My husband and I have 4 children. 2 are males. I cannot, in good conscience, leave this world knowing that my boys are weak and that they're unable to defend their families, defend this country with their lives and their sacred honor, and more importantly, stand for truth and righteousness versus lay down and demonstrate cowardice. That is not a godly trait. To be a coward, like if scripture admonishes us to act like men, to stand strong, and you do the opposite, and can I really believe that you trust God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and you're weak and cowardly? I get having the moments of weakness, but that's when, through the power of the Spirit, you recognize that all that you are and all that you ever will be has nothing to do with you as the individual, but everything to do with the God of the Bible, who, when you are weak, he is strong. So I get it. You're like, I'm not big. I'm not, I don't have a lot of muscles. I really can't, I can't slay a lion. That's not the expectation. The expectation is for you to demonstrate fortitude, resilience, to be mentally sharp and to be level-headed and to think clearly and soberly about the times that we are in, and to not be a punk. I know that ain't a biblical term, but don't be a punk. Women are struggling. We got our own struggles in terms of how we deal with and engage with men. We do. But a lot of the lack of respect that a lot of y'all are experiencing is because you're just weak. And if a woman can see that she can rattle you and manipulate you and manhandle you, she's going to do that. And so I just wanted to revisit this Ricky Smiley situation because it got me to thinking, is if part of the reason why the Black community is in the current state that it's in, because we've got generations of men who had the mindset that Ricky Smiley exhibited on that live stream, and now it's like an infection. Instead of men like J.H. Jackson, who, like, first of all, I don't care what these white people think about me. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to lead these people the way God has called me to lead them, to be self-reliant, to trust in God, but while we are here occupying, to not look to the government. There were men like that. But instead, because of the men and the mindset, the archetype, let me not make it too personal because I done whooped up on Ricky pretty bad. So let's move it aside from Ricky and let's just call it the Ricky Smiley archetype. He represents a type of emasculated, weak-minded man that wants to sell this generation more victimhood, and instead of saying that you are an overcomer and you are a conqueror, not because you might be physically strong, but because, one, you live in one of the greatest countries this side of heaven, but two, if you have the mind of Christ and you're an heir of Jesus Christ and a child of God, why would you not be brave? Why would you walk in fear? Fear is not a manly virtue, but he exhibits it, and he didn't even realize how much of an embarrassment he was, not just to his family, but to his ethnic expression. It was an embarrassment.